Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Nancy Halpern here with my co host, Julian Roberts. Happy International Women's Day for today. So, Julian and I are here to speak with each other and with you about yet another evergreen topic that's been made especially difficult during COVID, which is about motivation. How do you keep your teams motivated? How do you tell between a lack of motivation that you can do something about or people who are frankly just kind of lazy? Where do you put your efforts and what should those efforts be? So, Julian, hello. And are you going to sprinkle us, start off with some words of wisdom from your experience on this topic?
Good to see you again, Nancy. And I must
Julian.
say, happy International Mother's Day, Women's Day. Sorry,
No,
I've just
Mother's
done.
Day, not quite
I
yet.
know. Sorry, I just did my Mother's Day card. That's why it's in my mind. Sorry.
Julian, tell people how many women you're actually surrounded by, because they may have,
Well,
they'll
in my life,
understand.
I've got five, as in four daughters and a wife. So
And a
yes,
mother.
and a mother. Yes. So there's plenty of them around. So yes, happy International Women's Day to you. So that'd be great. Yes. So motivation. I think we've got 15 minutes to talk about this. It's a massive, massive topic, and I think the first thing where I always start with this really is we need to understand what motivation is and how we can motivate people, and rather than just being glibly about it, because there's two types of things, and the understanding is this intrinsic motivation within internal motivation of people. I might be saying the obvious here, but some people don't always know this. And then there's the extrinsic, so the outside external factors. And often organizations get caught up in the whole external piece, paying people bonuses, creating goals and everything else. And that's all fine and dandy. And in some sense, it does motivate people. However, it gets caught up with measuring outputs, measuring results. And I'm not saying we shouldn't measure results. It's important too. But it forgets. And it's interesting. We talked about some ways of rewarding people or evaluating people a few weeks ago slightly differently. It forgets about things like hard work. It forgets about collaborations. And it's great if you're performing really well. You're getting paid, you're getting all the praise. But if you're not doing so well, if you're an average employee, you're
Right.
not probably feeling very motivated. And it can also, unfortunately, create this sort of lone wolf mindsets and mentality where people then decide off, well, it's all about me. I'm going to get the results. I'm going to get the big bonuses. And so I think we need to consider that sort of more intrinsic approach as well, or a combination of those. Otherwise, we'll get caught up with people just doing wrong behaviors to get the right results. I don't know. Before I go on, what are your thoughts in terms of the intrinsic side and extrinsic side of motivation?
Well, I think it's actually spot on, and that the issue with the intrinsic side is you actually have to take the time to get to know your people as individuals, because different people are motivated in different ways. I mean, you mentioned the obvious external ones. Some people love problem solving. Throw them a sticky wicket and they are just happy as a clam, right? Other people are intrinsically motivated by the glue of relationships. And so you want to put them with other people. But, often leaders just see their people as a function, and they have a broad brush understanding of them, but they don't know really what gets them excited, what gets them charged, what gets them stimulated. And the more you can nuance how you interact with the person to be heard, really heard as a leader, the more motivated they're going to feel. There's something else, though, I wanted to toss into this, which is one of my favorite stories of a leader failing to motivate a team, was when he stepped in as a new leader, having replaced a popular one, and he was helping the organization make a fairly significant transition. And what he was saying is that the bus is leaving the station. You're either on it or you can get left behind. And he thought this was very inspirational. But that wasn't how his team took it. His team took it as a threat. And because he was a new CEO. And I have seen leaders before and companies wrap themselves in the blanket of slogans. thinking that this will really rally the troops. And I think we've reached a level in sort of, I don't know, awareness or consciousness or EQ, where many people see through that as being pretty hollow. So
Mm.
I think it would be nice when we talk about motivation if we could talk about it as something other than slogans and inspiring messages and really, get more curious and dig a little deeper into it. What do you think?
Well, it's interesting that on the bus type of slogan, it must have been around, I don't know, 10, 20 years ago, because I think I was in two organizations that was
Really?
coined. One of them was an American organization and one was a UK organization. And it's an interesting, slightly, and it goes to that people who are up there who are all about the sort of the glory will be highly motivated probably for that inspirational speech, but majority of people will just turn off, as you say. And I think it's going beyond that. And, it's, as I say, it's combining those extrinsic, intrinsic sort of motivation factors, isn't it? And I think that's the important thing, is there's no sort of one thing that will get it all done. And, instead of a slogan, I would endeavor and call people to create compelling visions. That's more inspiring. That is grounded in deep thought, that's grounded in wisdom, it's grounded in whether it's a historical thing and a future thing. People get inspired by a vision, and whether that's your own personal vision or a company vision that is portrayed, and that's extrinsic, it's external, but it's still more inspirational than a slogan. Yes, the vision may come down to a statement. I'm not saying it won't be a statement of words, but it can be articulated, and I think that starts to create a bigger picture and a place where people where they can feel they could contribute, and it's making sure that vision has got such a sort of a depth to it that people think, actually, do you know what, I feel I've got a place in this company because I can add to that vision, I can be part of that vision, I can do stuff, and I think that's really important.
Well, Julian, sorry, I was going to say, not surprisingly, since you're looking forward to the vision, I'm looking past to the history, right? Because that's what we do. And, I think one of the things that really can be compelling for motivation is an honest conversation about the past, not necessarily a negative one, but it can be, okay, we are in challenging times. Here are the last two instances when we were in challenging times. Here's what we accomplished, and here's how we did it. What do we learn from that? Because you're engaging, therefore, in not just a moment to motivate, there's a continuum. And I think then people feel part of something larger. And I think that can be very encouraging as well.
No, I agree. I think it's taking stock of where you've been and where you've come from and what's happened and how people have played their parts. And that sort of ties into that, I guess, that, what you call it, open and transparent, and that sense of sort of opportunity to be psychologically safe, allowing people to share what they think as well. And that's an important thing as well, because if people feel they can share things and it feels safe to, they're more willing to step up and not only say something, but get involved and think and make a go for things and really think, actually, I'm going to put my step out here and just go for it. I might make a mistake, but hey, it doesn't matter because I feel safe here. And I guess that's almost looking back, isn't it? Because we all would have made mistakes or things didn't quite go right. But how can we learn from that in a way that takes us back to where we're on that journey? You talked about this, trying to create these, I guess, discussions or dialogues for understanding our people's motivations. What have you done in your own experience to sort of, I guess, canvas that or initiate those conversations?
Well, I thought I was asking the tough questions today.
That's right. I've decided to go. I'm going rogue.
You can't help yourself, can you? You lone wolf, you. I did want to put in a good word for the lone wolves, by the way, before we end. Well, I think this is why companies do engagement surveys, so they think. But of course, the issue with an engagement survey is you don't know what to do with the data. So, in my experience, what I've counseled my clients is, can we peel back this onion? Let's take that data on engagement surveys and have smaller groups. Let's take a look at your incentive systems. What behaviors do you really want to incentivize? For HR people, I would say, is this competency model doing anything for you? Because if it's just, do they act in a collaborative, ethical way? Yes, 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 yes. Right. What are you learning about your people and your organization? And the other thing I think I would say is sometimes you need to, I don't remember the right verb, I'm sorry, but basically sort of striate perhaps your talent. In other words, some people will always operate at a low speed and they get their job done. Are you really going to spend most of your time, on a average player to try to motivate them? Because motivate, as my friend Julian would say, to what purpose? Right? But if you have people, and some people, by the way, are so type A, just get out of their way, just leave them alone. So I think what you're really trying to do is look at the great in between and say, in that great in between, are there a few people who, if we could ramp them up, or they could ramp up, or get juice somehow, just like 10 to 20% more, the result would be 40% more, if you like to think in mathematical terms, right? And also that makes your job easier, frankly, and more effective, because you don't have to motivate everybody. No one can motivate everybody. You have to motivate the people who, frankly, add the most value back.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I just wanted to show this. This sums up our conversation we just had a moment ago from Con. I think it's.
I love that. Looking back,
yeah.
well, we can look in two directions. I mean, I used to share with my clients, when you're driving a car, there's a reason why the rearview mirror is so small, right? You're not spending your time looking behind you, but looking behind you is a reference point, right? Because you'll see something from behind, you'll say, all right, I need to reposition this way, right? And so I do think that's really important. Thank you, Ken. I'm really glad that I'm glad that you shouted that out.
So how do we take this motivation to, I guess, I'm looking at time now. If we take the millennials, which I think account for about 35% of the current workforce, and are valuable and important, what sort of, I guess, tips, strategies do we need to think about or consider when we're trying to motivate them as a workforce?
By the way, I'm going to remember next week that the host asks all the hard, that the host has to answer all the hard questions. Okay, so you have been warned, my friend, for next week. Well, I was having this really cool conversation with this future of work guy in Hong Kong last week, and he was talking about, so millennials begin with, what is the purpose of this work? What meaning does it add to the world? Where we've often been taught, well, you do your hard work, you put your nose down, you climb the ladder, and you find purpose in the opening up of the work over time. But they start at a different point.
Yeah.
And even if you make ball bearings, let's say, and I know basically this much about ball bearings, but if you can say, well, our ball bearings go into wheelchairs that help people who are not able to walk. Our ball bearings do X, Y, Z. And your company has a sort of social footprint and a social voice. And you're able to find ways to give millennials voice into things that are happening in the company. That kind of impact is what they're looking for. And that's very different than other generations. What's been your observations and success, Julian?
Yeah, I think also it goes back to this transparency piece. They've lived or they've grown up in an environment of social media, internet, widely known what's been going on, and they really value this openness and transparency, and really like the regular performance discussions. We talked about it last week, a few weeks ago, about making sure that you don't just do a one-off yearly performance review, but you make sure you're having those ongoing. Millennials really like that constant feedback and awareness, and almost to give them a voice, really, to have some opportunity to share. But also, they really want to connect with their manager, and I think that's
they really want to connect with their manager.
And it goes back to that sense of purpose, making sure, what are they doing? Am I making a contribution here? Can I make a contribution? And do I have my voice? So that regular feedback. And just one other thing before we close, really, is that they really like this sense of flexibility and perks, and having more about, instead of a load of cash or bonuses, it might be more, can they do remote working, job sharing, the whole vast things to make.
I'm going to push back on that a little bit. I don't, because otherwise I wouldn't be doing my job. I'm not so sure about that. I mean, I think they like money. I think they have a lot of school loans to pay off. And I think they're actually willing to work quite hard, the ones who are driven. I do think one thing they like is recognition. And I don't think that should be confused with just petting them. I think they really
No,
crave
no.
the I really think they really crave direction and recognition, but especially recognition. Now, I know we're a little bit over time. So, Julian, I have to wrap it up. Thank you for grilling me like a steak on the barbecue. And I'm so glad to have been here with you. And I will see you next week, right?
Absolutely. Good to see you too as well. We'll see you next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.